But now going on to the next question. I know we briefly touched on it on our previous one, about, this idea of, is there a lack of representation when it comes to people of color within doctoral programs? But I guess maybe, don't feel like you have to specifically talk about your experience. If you know the experience of others, you're more than welcome to. But essentially, is there a lack of representation when it comes to doctoral programs, whether this is from, the students on the course, or whether, like you said, it's the more academic side, the lecturers that, or the mentors that help support this? Just want to know, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I 100% wholeheartedly think there's always this underrepresentation. And I think that underrepresentation, sadly, extends across the board. So that does extend from the student population. So PhD students going on to do a PhD, for example, academic staff, staff in different areas and so on, non-academic staff or whatever the case may be, everything down to kind of books that you read or subjects. So, it does extend across the board. And, it's great to know that numbers are moving in the right direction. But for me, underrepresentation is always going to be an issue until we deal with some of the more stronger issues, like we've talked about, institutionalized racism, things that are so deeply ingrained in society have a knock-on effect on absolutely everything else, so that's whether it's things that we watch on TV, the representation we see on television, to, the access to jobs and funding and some of the other things that we've spoken about. So the underrepresentation is definitely there. I know that a lot of people will say that, well, look, many students don't want to do a PhD for a number of reasons. And that's absolutely true. There are a plethora of reasons, again, why students don't go on, Black students in particular, don't go on to do a PhD. Some of those are cultural. I know for myself, my parents are from the Caribbean. So, I grew up from, with West Indian parents who are very specific about get your education and then go to work, because that's the way it was for them. They didn't even necessarily talk about get an education up to kind of master's. It was like, high school is fine. If you go on to college, great. But then you go out to work and you raise your family, and then the cycle repeats itself over and over again. In other Black communities, it's very different. It's like, no, you go on to be, do your undergrad, your master's, your doctorate, you go as high as the education ladder can take you. So it's very, very different. So yes, you're seeing some representation coming through, but we do again have to understand why, those numbers are low. But I do think there's more that we could be doing to challenge that. There's always more that we could be doing to change that narrative. There's always more that we could be doing to support Black students. We get the numbers in the door at undergrad level, and then it starts to tail off at postgrad, and then it starts to fall off, drastically at PhD. And it's when you go to these meetings or you read these reports, and it's the same things that just tell you exactly what we've just said. Yes, there's not enough students, Black students in particular, going on to do a PhD. Yes, you know that. Now let's tackle why that is and what we're going to do about it. Because that's sometimes, I think, where we get stuck. We just stay in that loop where, yep, this is the cycle. This is what's happening. Black students aren't going on to do their PhD. Why? Well, these are the reasons why. Okay. And then the conversation ends there. But what are we actually going to do about that? And sometimes for me, it's simple things sometimes that make a huge difference. So when you're thinking about, and these discussions are being held now, but when you're thinking about maybe Black academics applying for jobs in universities and so on, and you're still not doing blind, recruitment processes like taking off names and ethnicity and things like that. And, maybe you're having interviews and people don't understand, again, cultural sensitivities and differences. There's barriers there that need to be broken. There's barriers there that need to be spoken about. There's training that needs to be happening. There's things that needs to be discussed. Or if there are no Black academics on a course, for example, yet we're not kind of, allies are not doing their due diligence and their own work and thinking, well, actually, maybe I can get a guest speaker from another university to come and talk about this cultural topic. Or maybe I can do some of the work myself and think about how I can integrate more diversity into the course. Maybe that's through the reading list, the work that we do. We had a great initiative a few years back where it was kind of diversifying the library, which was absolutely brilliant. But we don't do enough of of that. And that's where, again, it goes back to what I've said before. We are proactive. We wait till something happens. We wait till people protest. We wait till people are up in arms. It's like, okay, we've got to do something. We've got to show our support. Well, actually, if you show your support now and it's continuous, that makes it sustainable, and people are more likely to believe and buy into that. So there's definitely still this underrepresentation. I know it's not something that's going to change overnight. I don't make any bones about that. I don't think, we can snap our fingers no matter how many great initiatives are happening. But I do think we need to still be doing more. I think we always need to be asking ourselves, well, actually, what more can we be doing? What more can I do? What help do people need? How can this be done?
No, that's definitely agree with that. And I think, like you're saying, so two things I want to say to that is definitely the first thing you're saying about, culturally, there's, when it comes to education, there's that the different viewpoints on how that works. I think definitely my sister recently got me into this podcast. I don't know if you know of it. It's called Jesus and Jollof. It's got Yvonne Orji and Lovey. They're both Nigerian Americans, and they're living there. And Yvonne Orji, she originally started out doing medicine, and she said that her parents, really wanted her to do it. They were just like, you're gonna go get your education, do this, go do that. And then she has a really interesting story of, she left. She said she didn't want to do go into medicine anymore. At one point, she was just like, it's not for me. Right. And I think, like you said, it's that thing of, culturally, there's different aspects. So you can't just say, hey, we're going to open up. And, we touched on this before. You can't just say you're going to open up, hey, we're going to prioritize having 6 of our positions, for example. We want to increase each year by having a number of Black students or a number of Asian students in these positions, without taking into account of, hey, if you look, like you're saying, across the board, how many students, start their undergrads and end it. There was an interesting statistic that I don't know off the top of my head, but it was saying that if you look at it, when it comes to, I think I was specifically talking about BAME students in general, but it was saying that if you look at I guess how many start an undergrad to basically, like you were saying, PhD, they just said the drop-off is significant on all three, undergrad, postgrad, PhD. You just see a massive drop-off, especially, they said, when it comes to undergrad, to the point where sometimes some of these students don't even finish their undergrad. They just drop off because they say, hey, it's too much, or hey, they didn't want to do this course. Or they, sometimes think, hey, that there's alternative, they only wanted to do it so they could gain money, they could get the skills to start their own business, or they want to.
No one wants to leave with £30,000 in debt.
100%. And it's just, and I think that's the thing that they need to think about, that, hey, if we are going to start saying that, like you were saying, that if university fees increase, there needs to be that understanding of, yes, while some people might be perfectly cool with, hey, I can just, pay it off afterwards, or hey, my family can afford to just pay it all at once, take it. There's some families that won't be able to, and it needs to be that case of, hey, there's how can we encourage people to still, whether it's going through higher education, whether it's doing things like apprenticeships, how can we still encourage that these students don't just drop off, and they keep staying on. And the second thing that you were talking about, in your segment, about how it's about seeing seeing these people when it comes to it, more initiatives, again, about this idea of proactiveness is definitely key. That when we start to see more people like ourselves, as doctors or as doing PhDs, that's when we'll say, hey, it's really interesting. I didn't know so-and-so did a PhD. If they could do a PhD, then I can do a PhD. And especially when, it's someone who might be from the same country as you or have a similar background story to you, then you'll be like, hey, if that person can do it, then I can do it too. And I think... yeah, and I think it links to, I guess for anyone who follows us on Instagram knows that we like to do some Tuesday motivations. And it literally, by coincidence, links to the one we put out today of, people shouldn't never be ashamed of their story, because it literally says that your story will inspire others. And I think that's a key thing to take into account from what you said.
Speaking to me, Jeffrey, if I could snap and give my church clap one time, I'm telling you, never be ashamed of your story. And I think, that's something that, again, has touched me because, as I said, I'm a mother of a young Black son who has severe autism. And that's a huge part of what my research is about. And, I often think to myself, there's someone out there that has a very similar story, but because research doesn't focus on those stories, you don't see it for you. So it's not on TV. It's not the story that you hear. It's not the story that you're told. So you can't see yourself. It doesn't resonate with you. And that's what people need to see. All it takes is a little snapshot of your story to resonate with someone else, and it opens up so many doors. It opens up endless possibilities. And those are things that are so important. Something that you just reminded me of, if you don't mind, just to finish that point, was just where we're talking about representation again. So there are some courses where the representation of Black PhD students is probably oversubscribed, in maybe kind of like the business ones and computer sciences and things like that. Because again, those are what we've been told are more lucrative careers. And, people really enjoy that. That's where the money is. We've got to think about the world and technology that we live in now are very different times from our parents, grandparents, etc. But there are still other courses where there are literally, there's just almost, the representation is just non-existent. Some of those courses like history or anthropology, for example, where, they need to think about new and creative ways to try and get, Black or any kind of minority ethnic group through the doors, and kind of help them understand that their research is important. And that's why I was talking about kind of that discussion around race-related issues as well, especially when it comes into research, because a lot of research that isn't done, it's just not done yet. That's how I see it. It's just undiscovered. But that's because it's a story that someone hasn't yet told. And sometimes people are afraid to do that. And that's what we need to do. We need to start being open to telling our story. Stop erasing our past. Stop being afraid to say, well, hey, I'm from, this part of Africa. I'm from this part of the Caribbean. These are my experiences and my lived experiences, because they count for so much. So I absolutely agree with you. When you talk about stories, that's for me something I'm just extremely passionate about. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
No. It's so true. And I think that that's one of the things that, like you're saying, that sometimes we forget that even though, like I've said it before, and, one of the things that both my parents really, really say to me, and it's all, whenever, stuff like this comes up, it's really interesting, is they're saying that, you might not understand why you went through a certain thing. But they were saying that, hey, it might not even be for you to go through it. It might just be a case that, hey, someone can look and say, hey, this person did it, and they've come out and they've been able to do it. And I think, like you said, that especially when it when it comes to certain groups, there is this tendency of, hey, we need to, it's not about getting an education to do something you enjoy, or doing, a subject where it might not necessarily bring in a lot of money. But there's this emphasis of, hey, if you do something like business, or if you do something like, a course on entrepreneurship, you're going to be focused on how you can, corner the market and, go into cryptocurrency and all of this stuff. And it's just that case of, it's not really for everyone. And I know that there are loads of people who have, whether it's siblings or cousins or family friends who, are saying, hey, I might be at secondary school now, but I definitely want to do study IT, because I want to, go into business studies, and I want to, look into how cryptocurrency stuff can be used. And it's you need to understand as well that there's, I guess, more, even like you were saying, that there's more information when you look at it. So whether it's, history, I'm a massive history fan, and my brother is as well. And we both like learning history, I guess, whether on different things. So whether that's, just your typical, history of a country, or history of a certain period of time, or whether it's, something that goes down more your interest. So if you're interested in gaming, how did gaming develop? What was the first video game? How did that work? How has it changed? Or how did it establish things like that? And it's just, I think, like you said, it's just seeing the fun side of it, and knowing that it's always better to do something that you enjoy, that you can wake up every day and you're just like, this is, I get to do this. This is amazing. Rather than, hey, I'm doing something that I know I don't like, but hey, I'm going to get the benefits of being rich, or I'm going to get the benefits of bringing in money. And it's just not good for, I guess, even on like you're saying about well-being, it's not good when it comes to that, because even like my dad was saying like that about jobs. He was saying that you want to be able to wake up, every day, and you're just like, I get to do this job and I enjoy it. And, I'm not saying, that, and I understand, especially during COVID, people weren't necessarily doing their ideal jobs.
Right.
But he was saying that, like, when it comes to jobs, people shouldn't feel like just because one job is giving them more money that they have to, like, stay in that job. Because I think, like you were saying, that, education is there throughout the whole time. So even if I know people who waited, ages before they did their undergrad. Literally, one of the people on the team, listeners might know him, Samuel. He was saying that there was someone on his master's course that was 60. She just came back and was just like, hey, I'm really interested in psychology. I just thought, I've worked a bit. I want to go into, go back, do a bit of education again, and just, see where it takes me. And I think that that's one of the things that we do kind of forget, that, hey, you can just come back. You don't have to stick with what you've got. You can say, hey, actually, I want to try something else. One day you might say, hey, I've been a bus driver for like 12 years, but actually, what? I really love the idea of being a teacher. So today I'm going to go and I'm going to start working towards being a teacher. Or you might be like, hey, I was a teacher. I want to go and start my own business, or be a consultant or whatever. Like the world's your oyster. There's so many opportunities available for you.
No matter the age or stage you're at, doesn't matter. What you can do and be whatever you want to. And, that's something that I've been fortunate enough to see myself going back as a mature student. So it doesn't matter what age or stage you're at in life, you can do and completely turn your life around. So it's just so important, but you do have to believe in yourself, even when everyone else will doubt you, even when, the naysayers will come, and those doubts will creep in. Believe me, as a PhD student myself, and I'm first generation, I still get those imposter syndrome feelings. I still get, oh, should I really be here? Or do I really belong here? And I have to do everything I can to say, actually, yes, you do. You've worked hard to get here, and you're going to stay here, and you're going to remember how hard you've worked to get here. So you're right. It doesn't matter how old you are. And, we had a nice little mature student crew as part of my undergrad clique when I was an undergrad, which was absolutely brilliant, because we all had our different careers, and here we are starting afresh to become teachers or, whatever it was. But it was just absolutely fantastic when you actually dig deep and you realize that actually no one can take away what's inside you. No one can take away that passion. You just have to believe. Possibilities are endless.
No, that's so true. And I think that nicely leads on to my next question, which is we've spoken, just now about going back to education, doing some opportunities. Now, there might be some people listening that are thinking, wow, Donna-Marie, you've done an amazing job at, talking about why PhDs are interesting, why they're really fun. And they might be thinking, okay, I'm looking to do a PhD now. So our question to you is, what's one piece of advice, one piece of advice you think super key that you would give them? They're thinking of applying now to do a PhD. What's the one thing that they should be thinking about doing?
My first advice would be to do it. That's absolutely first. Like, don't even second guess yourself. Absolutely do it. But I would say do something that you are extremely passionate about and connected to. You are going to spend full-time 3-4 years, part-time, double that, doing your research. And it's just so important, because you're going to live, eat, breathe this. This is going to be part of your family, your adopted family member. You're never letting this go. And, this is going to be quite influential in whatever discipline you're in. So just make sure it's something that you are really, really connected to. And that would be the best advice I would give anyone. Don't worry about kind of the logistics of it all. I know sometimes those are the things that come up first, like how will I be able to afford it? Or can I work and do it? And all of those things are things that I asked myself, how will this interfere with my family life, with my work, etc. all of those things will come in due time. You slot those into place the same way you would navigate any other thing you do in your life. But I think the most important thing, or the best piece of advice I would give someone, is just to make sure you are passionate and connected to your subject or whatever it is you want to do.
Thank you. And that is amazing. So yeah, anyone listening wants to do a PhD, you've heard it here first.
Yeah, you do it. Come shout me out. Listen, I have no problem sitting down and discussing why you should do it. I'll give you all the pros. I'll give you the cons too, because I'm honest like that. I want you to make an informed decision. But I just want you to just really believe in yourself. It's not, I won't pretend and say it's easy. It's not like what your undergrad is or your postgrad, or even if you've not done, any kind of formal studying for a long time, you may go a different route. You might do, like an ed doc or something different. There's so many different routes into it. But the first thing is to just do the application. Take that first step. And again, find something that you're really passionate about. I think that's one of the things I love about kind of being a doctoral researcher is I do actually love research, because I'm getting to find answers and uncover things for myself. So, like I said earlier on, I don't want someone to tell me the answer. I want to find the answer for myself. And I want to have a debate. If I don't agree with your answer, let's talk about it. So yeah, definitely do it. And please hit me up anytime. I'm still kind of working on Jeffrey here to have this discussion about his. But, if you do want to do it, please feel free. I'm happy to just talk about it with anyone.
Oh, thank you very much. And we'll include the details below so you can get in contact with Donna-Marie. But yeah, we've now come to the last question before I hand the mic over to you and you ask me your question that you've prepared for me. But we want to know, what are you've told us about your PhD, you've told us about all the initiatives you've been doing at Brunel, which is amazing. But what do you want to do after your PhD's done? We're looking in the future. PhD's done, you've given the award. What are the plans for you?
So my Michael Jackson impersonation is out. I reckon, I'm only kidding. I would really love to be an academic. I would really love to be an academic that specializes in race, special education, and kind of the intersections of higher education. So how race, identity, and special education work, and race-related issues in higher education. I'd love to be the academic that I wish I saw when I was doing my undergrad or doing my postgrad for that matter. So yeah, that's the next ambition. That's the next on the goalpost, I should say, after where we're at now. So that's what I'm hoping for. By God's grace, he's got me this far, and I'm truly grateful. I'm blessed. If without God, I wouldn't have been where I am now. So I just want to continue to work hard and continue to do all that I can to get to that next stage.
Wow, that is wonderful. And yeah, who knows? Some of these listeners might even end up being your students. So
I'm a whole load of fun. I can tell you all that now.
That's really good. And I can definitely see you being a really good academic. So
thank you. You are too kind. Because you're my new favorite person. Because I'm trying to get you to do your PhD. So seeing as I get to take the mic now, first of all, let me just say thank you so much again for having me. It's been absolutely fantastic being here. It's my first podcast. I was a little nervous, but you put me at ease. You're an absolutely great host. So let me give you props on that first. And it was just great. It really did feel like just having a conversation with a friend. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
So this is to you and the team, and I know all the team's not here. So I know that obviously we're in January, and, it's typically the time where we think about kind of reflections and, resolutions and aspirations. And something that I think about is kind of being intentional as we move forward into the new year. So what would you say was your biggest challenge in 2021? And what are 3 aspirations for Pick Up the Mic in 2022? So a two-parter. Biggest challenge last year, and then 3 aspirations for the coming year.
I'd say the biggest challenge for Pick Up the Mic in 2021 was most likely the fact that it wasn't, I guess the fact that it wasn't a planned thing wasn't a challenge, but I'd say it was more the case of because Pick Up the Mic wasn't originally going to be a podcast. It was just going to be like a speaker series that I was going to do with some friends. And the fact that it turned into a podcast meant that not a lot of people knew about it. So I think one of the biggest challenges, especially like for that first couple of episodes, was just being like, hey, you know, not a lot of people might actually know about this, and just, you know, whether it like with Instagram or like with LinkedIn, you know, sending invites to friends and family or like people I've worked with to be like, hey, you know, I've got this thing, you might not know about it, but here it is, check it out. And then, you know, sometimes you might see that, hey, you know, especially like even as a team, like we always find it funny that our first episode is like one of our most listened to episodes, but we all just feel like in that first episode, we just felt like we were all so awkward when we were doing it. That like when we listen back, we're just laughing, but we're just like, the fact that people go back and listen to it just shows that they really did enjoy it. But yeah, I think it was that. It was just like getting it started was probably like one of the biggest challenges. And yeah, literally it's coming up to, I think March 9th this year will be the 1 year anniversary of our first episode. So yeah, we're looking forward to that. And yeah, there'll be a few things that we're doing for that. So everyone, I guess, will keep an eye out. But yeah, I think it was just that like getting started, you know, getting used to not seeing like a massive growth immediately.
Right.
Because I've previously, like I still do like a course project that I started, which did stuff about like sustainable fashion. And that was really fun. But I think with that, because I did it like outside of the pandemic, I was able to, you know, host events. I was able to like invite people to come, you know, speak in person at these events. So it meant that like, hey, even if I can't necessarily utilize like Instagram and stuff, it meant that, hey, I could actually, you know, just, you know, invite people along. They might share it with their friends, and then, you know, we can bring some followers in that way.
Right.
But yeah, I think it was just that case of like getting started, and like, you know, I don't have any previous podcasting experience. No one on the team does. So we were all just like, hey, you know, let's just see how this goes. We were just like, if people like it, great. If people don't, fine. But like, we really want people to, I guess, benefit from what we're saying and know that like, we've all got, you know, different backgrounds. We've all know of different like support services that have helped us or helped friends and family. And we want to highlight these to people. And we were saying that, hey, even as a whole, like the pandemic's just been difficult. So we just want to say like, you know, these are some resources that can help young people. These can help like uni students who want to go into, you know, who want to do, whether it's a placement or they want to, you know, look for graduate opportunities, whether they're like young people and they want to go to university, like this is what you should expect. So these are some of the things that can happen. And yeah, I think it was just that. And then, you know, it's been really good. We've received a lot of support. You know, we've really loved using the platform we use to do the audio stuff, which is Buzzsprout, and that's been like really fun to use because it's meant that we can like put it out on like loads of different platforms,
right?
Which has been like, and that was the other thing that we weren't sure. We were just like, because I think when we were starting, we were just like, hey, so what's the best platform? Like, what's the best place we could put it? Because we were just like, you know, a lot of people have Spotify. But then we were saying, hey, but, you know, some people might only use Google Podcasts or Apple Podcasts, and we don't want to lose out on an audience. But yeah, Buzzsprout's really great because it allows us to have it on multiple ones. And yeah, it's been really good to do that. And I think 3 aspirations for 2022. I think first off is definitely like do more, I guess, fun stuff. Like not like the stuff that we do already isn't fun.
It's fun. I had fun.
But we just felt like, and you know, we briefly started it, and we've got a couple of episodes coming out as well in the future about this. But yeah, we just wanted to like, I guess, expand on like what we already do, because like we all have like different interests. So like I know one of the things which was interesting was like our previous guest Joanna, she was saying that she's like a massive Marvel fan, and I was like, hey, I'm a massive Marvel fan, like see, another massive Marvel fan. So I was literally just like, hey, you know, this is something that, you know, while it's not necessarily what we do normally about like promoting support services, things like that, like that's something that we could go down. So I think, yeah, doing more, I guess, stuff that, you know, isn't necessarily solely, you know, pick up the mic, or isn't just solely like more, you know, question-based stuff. It's more of that, you know, community-based things, like whether it's just an episode or a recording about like discussing Marvel theories, or whether it's, you know, like a gaming one about like, you know, whether it's through Twitch, or we're just talking about like upcoming games and stuff and our predictions, like things like that. I think definitely is something that I want to do a lot more of.
Okay.
Number two, I would say, I guess working with more wonderful speakers like yourself. I think, one of the things that I've like we said before is it's been really great to speak with different individuals. I think, like you were saying before, about first off about these differences, but a key thing that you mentioned before that I didn't actually comment on was, like you were saying, the talking to different universities has been really interesting, especially like, for this season, we spoke with the women's, I've forgotten the name. We spoke with the Women in Medicine and Healthcare Society at Barts University. And they've been really good. It was really good to like learn about what they do and like learn how they work. We've spoken to current Brunel students, ex-Brunel students. We spoke to friends, even like through the podcast, I found out that one of the guest speakers that we had, Morgan, he was a close friend of Samuel, and I had no idea about this like at all. It was just a case of, yeah, exactly. It was just this idea of like a small world, and I was just like, I brought him on the show, and I was like telling the team, hey, I got this guy called Morgan. He wants to be on the show. My friend Samuel was just like, you mean this Morgan? I was like, yeah, how do you know? And he was like, yeah, we're good friends. So I think that's one of the things that definitely has been really fun. And that's one thing I want to do more of, just working with more guest speakers, and I guess it links to that first one of doing more fun content with them as well. And I think lastly, I just want to, I think it's doing with like getting and showing, I guess, who we are, I guess, because I think one of the great things, both through like using Buzzsprout, because it'd be this amazing thing of like these like Q&As, so like, oh, if you've just started podcasting, like here's some tips and stuff, or like stuff like that. And I've even been using Pick Up the Mic to like follow like content creators, so to know like, hey, if you want to do a reel, here's some ideas, or like what are the best apps to use, what you should avoid when you're doing like reels and stuff. And that's been really good. But I think like as a team, we just want to grow ourselves and just use it's been really good to learn about these different opportunities. So I know in one of our episodes, like I said that I didn't know that through my course that we did like an assessment on it, and the person was saying that you could work with Netflix as like an environmental, I don't know what the official job title is, but essentially it's like, hey, if Netflix or a film company are going to do a film, like they're going to film something in a field, or they're going to be in like an environment where they're going to have to like cut down trees and stuff, you can ensure that they do it in like the most environmentally friendly way.
Wow.
And you can be a part of the like team that's all about like, hey, if they're doing, I don't know, like Bridgerton season 2 or 3, like, hey, if you want to know how to, they might be like, hey, we want to film a scene in the forest and we want to bring all these like trailers in and build these sets. And they might be like, hey, we want to know, how can we make this like environmentally friendly? Like, how can we ensure that we're not like damaging the environment, or we're bringing in like non-native species that could get rid of the species that already exist in the area. So I think that's really good. I think that's been really fun already, like learning tips and tricks from other people in the team, from guest speakers like yourselves. It's been really good. So I think that there's one more I guess I want to say, and I guess that's my hope, depending on how things go with the restrictions as such. But yeah, I think one of my hopes is to meet, because obviously I've done a lot of like online stuff with our guest speakers. But yeah, definitely to meet with our guest speakers in person, because some of these people, I've only just met them through Instagram, like, whether they're recommended by a friend, like some of them are friends, some of them are family, some of them are people like yourself that go to the same university. But yeah, some of these people I've like never met before. So definitely like the opportunity to, I guess, meet them in person, to just, speak to them and just, learn a bit more, but I guess, have that personal interaction would be good. And I'm going to sneak in one more because it just came to me.
Go for gold.
My one more is I've been like writing a list of like, because one of the things that and I definitely would recommend for anyone listening, Jesus Central Off is a really great podcast, especially I would say because I know my sister like was listening to it, she loves it, and she was saying that even like just as a a Nigerian to hear, I guess, like what other Nigerians are going through at similar ages, you know, whether they're talking about, you know, your parents speaking to you about like the way you cook food, or, you know, the way that the way that you like dress, or things like that. Like they said, like that's been really, really fun. And I think one of the things that podcast really did, where they were talking about like this idea of like, manifestation boards. So, you know, you writing that this is what you want to do in a year, or this is it. And yeah, so from that, I've written a list of like guest speakers that I would love to have on the show. And yeah, my aspiration this year is to get at least one of these guest speakers on, you know, whether it's, you know, I don't know, through the university, they get them on, or through whether
they're coming on. We're speaking it into existence. We don't care how they get here.
As long as they're here. And
they're coming. It's out in the universe, and we're going to hold on to that. I love that.
Yeah, because I think even like one of the things that they were saying as well is like, I guess getting rid of this mindset of, you know, you reach this point, now you want things to happen. And it sort of links to another podcast, I guess I was listening to, which I think is Comedy Gold Mines. And it's by Kevin Hart, and he interviews like these comedians every week. And one of the episodes he did was with Trevor Noah. And I spoke about this quote that he said that, hey, you know, Trevor Noah was basically saying that he's tired of, I guess, this mindset of, you know, he's going to work until he gets up to this point, and now he can start like enjoying, I guess, things, or now he can start bringing things, you know, in and bringing guest speakers. But he was saying no, that actually, you know, he's now in the mindset of actually, I'm here, I'm going to enjoy it now. I'm going to, you know, put things out there now. I'm going to start, whether it's, you know, sending invites to, you know, these speakers, you know, and even if you feel like, and I think that's one of the key things that he raised, that even if you feel like it's like, I don't know, like loads of speakers have said no, all you just need is that one speaker to say yes. And I think that was a really interesting thing that he said in that episode, that I had no idea about this, but when he started on the Daily Show, he said that like, no, he was emailing like all these like guest speakers to come on, and he was saying like, hey, can you be on my show? Like, we'd love to interview you. And they were just like, no, we're okay. You know, da, da, da. And then he said like, he emailed his team, I guess, emailed Kevin Hart, and Kevin Hart was just like, yeah, sure. I'd love to be a guest. And I think like from that, and him saying that, you know, like it, like Kevin Hart, I guess, took a chance on him. Like, he might not necessarily know who he was, but he was just like, hey, this is something that's great, and I want to take part in that. I think that's one of the things that, you know, like, these speakers on the list that I would love to bring them on is not because, you know, I don't know, they want to promote themselves, or they want to like, you know, they want to get paid to do it. You know, I want them to come on because they're like, actually, you know, I genuinely agree with this message that these guys are promoting, and I actually want to help them. So yeah, I think those would be my aspirations for 2022. Who knows? We might next year do what 2023 looks like. I'm
excited for you. Listen, I can only see nothing but greatness for Pick Up the Mic for you and the team. We're speaking it into existence. I pray that God will bless you guys abundantly, because what you're doing is absolutely fantastic and great. So I can see those aspirations, and we're turning them into intentions. They're going to happen. They are now intentions, and they're going to happen.
Hey man, thank you. No, thank you so much. That's really nice. And I think that's one of the things that I really, really do like. And I guess I you know, let's slide one more. I promise, the last one.
Love it. Listen, I got 10 if I could. Go ahead.
I think one more before I move on to the MC of the Month section is, I really do want, I guess, our audience to be involved. You know, whether this is through like live events, whether this is through in-person events, I do want them to feel like they are, I guess, heard. Because, you know, I know that there are like sometimes, whether it's like with content creators in general, or whether it's just like with podcasters or whatever, like sometimes it can feel like as an audience, you know, your second thought because this person's like getting paid to promote this thing or to do this thing. But one of the things that I've always loved about some of the content, I guess some of the people I like follow on YouTube or watch on YouTube, like there's one guy I watch, his name is called Radbrad, and he's a YouTube gamer. Like one of the things I always love is that he's always willing to try, I guess, whatever is his interest. It's not necessarily, you know, if his audience like it, even if he's not really big on it, you know, he'll do it. And I think that's one of the things that definitely in the future I'm looking forward to, you know, whether our audience want us to, you know, do more stuff on gaming or Marvel or DC or whatever. Like I'm looking forward to, you know, being able to support them. And, who knows, in the future, it might be, subscribe to our Patreon page and you get like a t-shirt or a pen or something like that. So yeah, I think
ready to get some merch.
Yeah.
I'd like to pick up the Mike mug actually. So yeah, we need to see that happening.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I think that's one of the things, like definitely, I know some of our audience members have been involved, especially before even, I guess, the first episode was out. So definitely I want to show them a way that, hey, we really appreciate what you do. We really appreciate all the support you've given, and yeah, definitely work with them a lot more in the future. But yeah, I think that nicely leads on to our MC of the Month section. And for this episode, we've spoken about a lot of wonderful initiatives, as you've already heard of. You've heard of the Black Doctoral Researchers Collective, which is a great initiative, and great shout out for our MC of the Month. But we sometimes mix and match. We sometimes do two. And for today's episode, in addition to that, we're also talking about Brunels Doctoral Research Society. Now, when it comes to this, and I've previously said this when we mentioned Brunel initiatives, we're not just solely talking about the university being the MC. If there are doctoral researchers societies at your university, these are also things that you could get involved in. They are also our MCs of the month. And essentially, as I said, I'm specifically talking about Brunel because those are the ones that we're talking about today. So the one at Brunel, they have over 200 doctoral researchers, and their aim is, and I think it's very key, is to inspire a supportive community of doctoral researchers and postgraduate students at the university. And I think that's very key. That's very important, especially as we see, not only, when it comes to what we touched on today about like well-being and, looking after each other as a collective, as a group. But we also know that when it comes to, in general, when it comes to academics, that sometimes we just need that community, that community that even if they don't do the same subject as you, they're all, whether it's master's students who feel like 1 year is too short for the amount of work that you're doing, whether you're, third year students and you feel like, hey, a couple of months for your dissertation is not enough. It is good to have that network of people that, are going through the same thing as you and they're able to support you. And in addition to, the things that I've mentioned, the Doctoral Researchers Society at Brunel, they do a wide range of amazing things. They host different events. So some of them are webinar series where they bring on amazing guest speakers to talk about different topics. Some of these are actually lunches. So they had a Christmas lunch as well. And some of them, it gives the opportunity to speak about, if you're not doing a PhD already, learning about what other people are doing, learning about what you could possibly do your PhD on. Sometimes I think like Donna-Marie was saying that sometimes it might not necessarily be the traditional route. So you might not necessarily want to do a PhD itself, but there are other things that you could do. I know that there's been, especially when it comes to like third year students, I know that there have been third year students who have supported, PhD students on their dissertation, and they've included part of that as a part of their dissertation. So there is a wide range of resources that can be available to you if you do work with these societies. And as always, we will include the links below. So if you are a Brunel student and you're interested in being involved in society, whether you're undergrad, postgrad, you're a PhD student already, feel free to check it out. And I believe, and I just need to, as always, confirm, fact check what I say. There is a membership fee. But I am sure that these guys will give you the amazing treats that I know come when you pay for membership. So yeah, definitely check out their link. I think I just want to check. Donna-Marie, you know a bit more about them. So if I've missed anything out,
I'm one of the members. Well, one of the things I was going to shout out, if I can, because I think you've given them a great job. You spotlighted them brilliantly, and maybe just to tag on to that. And I don't want to just make it Brunel focused, as you said, but two places I want to shout out. One would be the graduate school, because I think we have an absolutely brilliant graduate school at Brunel University, which are there in effect to support doctoral researchers across the whole of the university. And it's not just for training and courses, but it is really with absolutely every aspect of what it is like to be a doctoral researcher. I know that when I joined last year, in my first year, the help that they gave me was, unparalleled. Like, it was just absolutely brilliant. And it's great because you have kind of this source of academic support, but they are also there to support you with well-being and, kind of any other issues, financial issues, or kind of just signpost you to the relevant place. They're an absolutely fantastic team run by an absolutely brilliant Black woman, Dr. Tina Ramkalawan, who is absolutely fantastic. I can't sing her praises enough, but the whole team at the graduate school are absolutely brilliant. But just like you said, I know that we do have a lot of listeners out there that are not from Brunel University, but I would encourage anyone who is either doing their PhD or thinking about it, or who has any links to any university, maybe to look at whether their university has any kind of doctoral researcher society or something similar to the Black Doctoral Researchers Collective. There's so many different groups and initiatives that are being set up at the universities in the UK or outside of the UK, as it were, recently over the past year, especially with the movement of Black Lives Matter, that have been absolutely fantastic. And a lot of these initiatives have been, like I said, just first class in just making sure that, Black, Asian, minority ethnic groups, or just doctoral researchers on a whole, get the support that they need on this pivotal journey in their life. So, if you are at a different university, see what your university has to offer. Don't be afraid to ask those questions. If you're not sure, again, message me, I'll ask them for you. But yeah, definitely tap into some of those resources that are out there. There are so many others that are starting up now that are not just university-wide, but, more external organizations and so on, which I'll hopefully share with Jeffrey as well. But I think, yeah, definitely great to spotlight the Doctoral Researchers Society, our own graduate school, and some of the work that's being done, the fantastic work, I should say, that's being done across universities up and down the country.
Thank you. And I guess one note before we end the episode is, definitely, if you don't have one at university, feel free to start one. It's not a complicated process to start societies, as long as the interest is there. And I'm sure, especially as you've seen some of the benefits that we've highlighted that Brunel's own Doctoral Research Society does. It's clear that there is a need for it, and it will be beneficial. So yeah, definitely, if you haven't gone already, feel free to start it. But yes, the Brunels, the Doctoral Research Society, in addition to other Doctoral Research Societies at other universities, are MCs of the Month. And on that note, we have officially come to the end of the episode. So I want to say, first off, again, a big thank you to Donna-Marie for her wonderful insight today. It's been great to learn more about you, more about the amazing work that you've done throughout your time at Brunel, to know more about PhDs as well. And I guess before we let you go, I just want to ask, if our listeners are interested, I know we said we'll include the links below, but if our listeners are interested in learning a bit more about you, or knowing a bit more about what you do your PhD on, where can our listeners go to get that information?
So I'm social, but I'm not as social, but I am on social media. So your best bet would be to tweet me. So you can find me on Twitter, and that is HolderDM_. But again, we'll give you all the links. I'm also on LinkedIn, and that's my full name, Donna-Marie Holder, which I know you won't forget now, that Donna-Marie Osmond story. But yeah, just kind of search Donna-Marie Holder and you'll find all of my details. But please feel free to get in touch. I know some people are like, oh, I'm not sure, I don't really know her. Believe me, you can just send me a message and we'll be talking like we're old friends.
Thank you. No, thank you very much for that, Donna. It's really good to learn more about you, Donna-Marie.
Thank you. And thank you again. I wish you all the success, but thank you. And all success with your course, but with Pick Up the Mic as well, to you and the team. And thank you for being absolutely fantastic.
Oh, no worries. Thank you very much. And as always, listeners, if you've loved this episode, feel free to like and subscribe. If you want to join our Patreon page, there are some lovely benefits already for you. Please feel free to check. But as always, it's been a great episode. That's a bye from us here, and yeah, we'll see you all in the next episode. Pick Up the Mic. So take care, y'all. And see you all later.